Hello, I'm Tom Ernst, and welcome to Making Movies the Canadian Way. Now, the last time I checked, and I have to say it was quite a while ago, it was 2013, and at that time there was 75 plus film festivals going on in Toronto alone. And I'm sure now in 2017 there is even more. So how do we sustain those festivals? And who are the filmmakers that enter their films into these film festivals? And again, who are the audiences? Well, we're about to find out because film festivals are diverse as the people who live in Toronto, as diverse as our city itself. Here we have Ariel Smith, and she is the artistic director, executive director of Imaginative Film and Media Arts Festival. Thank you so much for joining us. My good friend over here, Kelly Michael Stewart, is the executive director of Blood in the Snow Festival, one of my favorite festivals just because I'm such a genre fan. We'll find a little bit more about your festival as well. Jordana Aarons is over to my right here. I had to check and see which was my right and left. She is the executive director of Planet in Focus. And to my immediate right is Ananya Ori. Great, and she is the executive director of the Regent Park Festival, am I correct? Mm-hmm. Great, thank you so much for joining us. So of all the people here sitting at this table right now, Kelly, you are the baby.
How many?
You are the baby at 5 years, I think, the festival is this year, is that correct?
We're going to year 6 this year.
You're going into year 6, so you're still the baby amongst the other festivals. You started in 2012.
Yeah.
So already there was a lot of festivals going on. Did anyone say, Kelly, we got a lot of festivals. I don't know how a new one is going to take off.
Well, this is what I tell people now, yeah. But no, but our festival kind of started off a little cosmically without really kind of planning. In fact, I'm kind of glad, but this is where ignorance is bliss, because I used to host a movie night at the Projection Booth Theater in the east end of the city at the time. And it was just doing like a monthly horror night. And then I had, in our case, I had so many films to show that one particular time of year in late 2012, I'm like, why don't we just make a whole weekend of it? And then someone said, well, why don't you call it a film festival? And so the Blood in the Snow name was going to be the tagline. It was going to be Fright Nights, which is the name of the series, and then Blood in the Snow Weekend. And then someone said, why don't you call it Blood in the Snow Canadian Film Festival? And so within 12 weeks, we had a film festival, and it did very well. We had 2 sold-out screenings. We had MTV come out to it. It became a thing. So it was really only after we did year 1 where we actually sat down and went, all right, let's get programmers and let's start a festival. So that was kind of the thing. It was just like, so it was never planned. It just turned into that.
Well, Ariel, you're stepping into a festival that's already existing. So it's kind of different than Kelly, who created this festival. So what are sort of the trials that you have coming into the position?
Well, I mean, I've been involved with Imaginative in many different capacities over the year, but I'm new to being the executive director, just started in August of 2016.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So our festival, this will be our 18th year, and I mean, trials and tribulations, it's hard. Our festival, we get about 20,000 people that come and take in our programming year-round. We also do a lot of year-round programming, but obviously our festival is our highest profile activity. So I would say often trials and tribulations related to just coordinating such a massive event. And then we've also grown so much, like every year we grow. There's a real demand for Indigenous film, and also the ways that we address the needs of Indigenous filmmakers within the industry. We're pretty unique in that sense in Toronto, so we wear a lot of hats.
You know, it's interesting because you talk about serving a need to the Indigenous filmmakers. Also, I suppose, to the Indigenous community, because suddenly there's more representation on screen. I'm fascinated when I go to film festivals. There is a great deal. Well, maybe you wouldn't think so because there's always could be more. But there seems to be a rise in Indigenous filmmaking.
Yeah, I mean, certainly there is within Canada, but also internationally. When we first started, we started specifically because of the lack of representation. At the time that we started in 1999, the majority of films about Indigenous people were not made by Indigenous filmmakers. So now that has changed, but we're still certainly underrepresented just in general in mainstream festivals, but it has improved a lot. But Imaginative has also had a lot to do with that. So, you know, bigger festivals like Hot Docs and TIFF certainly increased the amount of programming that's actually made and controlled and owned by Indigenous people. I would say that's the big difference. People think, oh, but there's always been Indigenous films, but those are not films that are made by Indigenous people. They just have Indigenous people in them as the subject or the characters.
Yes, and then that could be misconstrued in so many ways if you don't have the actual voice behind the direction.
Yeah.
You know, Ariel brought up an interesting point about year-round programming, Jordana. And when I was talking with you just prior to going on air, you mentioned some programming that continues outside of Planet in Focus.
Yes, well, apart from our festival, which again is our anchor event, we do quite a bit of educational programming in the schools. You know, we do tour our films around to all levels, elementary, high school, and universities across the province and the country. But we also work with students in the classroom and also with educators. We do a program called Ecofilm Lab, where in the last few years we worked in Toronto and some of the Ontario regions, where we'll train the teachers with media literacy skills, and then they in turn go work with the classes and they create short eco-films. Sometimes we can send filmmakers into the classroom depending on the funding that we receive in that year. And then at the end we have a really wonderful group of films that are made by the students, and we have a student film festival. And this year we actually are going to go up to Attawapiskat and do the Ecofilm Lab up in Attawapiskat.
And that's important because of a specific connection to the festival, isn't it? Because of a film you had there several years ago.
Yes, it was our opening night gala in 2015, and Victoria Lean had a film called After the Last River, and we had some of the community members down and speaking about the community and some of the issues and the needs of the community, and we felt that we wanted to continue that connection and support the community in any way we could. So we've managed to pull some funds together, and I'm going up with a number of filmmakers. The lead filmmaker is actually from the community, Jules Kostashian, and Vicky Lean is coming up as well. And we're managed to get a bunch of equipment, so we'll do the Ecofilm Lab up there, and we'll leave all the equipment behind so that they have that in school and have some resources so they can continue that work there. So.
And then that sense of community is very important to the Regent Park Festival, I would assume. And also the Regent Park Festival, I think one of the things that is stand out about it from other festivals, am I correct about this, it's absolutely free?
It's absolutely free.
Oh, wow. And so how does, Jordana spoke in terms of how the festival and how the films sort of extend and help the community. How does Regent Park Festival serve that purpose?
You know, what purpose it serves is really well encapsulated in why it was started about 15 years ago now. A student teacher started it. It was just an idea that she had about what would be great for the community, because while there's so many festivals in the city, as you've mentioned, people don't necessarily have access to them, not only because of the ticket price, but also how do you get there, how do you get childcare. And so the idea was to host a festival in the community itself. For 9 years we were in schools here, so that people would get to see people like them on screen, and stories that resonate with them. Also have the opportunity to come together and have fun. So that's the role we continue to play. What's changed, of course, along with the changing landscape of Regent Park, is that we now bring people together from all over the city. And the idea is that the question that we have and that we work on every year is, how does this amazing art that's created, that represents complex stories and the complexity that we all have, and how does it bring people together, and how does it build community? So that's the role we play.
Well, but then also that's a great purpose. Like, I mean, coming out to Regent Park today is much different than when I would come out to Regent Park 10, 15 years ago. So bringing the city into Regent Park serves a purpose. because there's certainly, it is a changing landscape. Where do these voices come from, these filmmakers?
It's funny, I get asked a lot, like, how did all these films get made in Regent Park? And while we do honor films that are made in Regent Park, the films that we show come from all over the world. And it's filmmakers who are interested in talking about telling human stories in our cities, really.
And that could be universal in any city, really.
That's right.
Yeah.